Arkansas baseball getting ready for its 12th Men's College World Series appearance. The Hogs hit the field earlier this afternoon for some practice ahead of the opening round, which their game is on Saturday. Our 5 News Sports team out in Omaha to get you ready for the game Saturday night. 5 News Sports reporter Robin Home Run Hearn joining us now with a look at a great day for some baseball.
Yeah, Darren, I love that name, by the way. I'm going to have to tell my brother about that one. But the vibes are high right now for Arkansas coming into Omaha this weekend. And you can honestly, you know why, because they've been having such a great last couple of weekends. And that's how the locker room is feeling coming into this one. What they've been able to do on the field has been great for not just the team, but for the fans as well. As Coach Van Horn said in the fall, he knew that this team would be back in Omaha, and this is where they are. Even the Razorback faithful have plenty of faith in their team. There are quite a few numbers of fans in the stands today for practice. As for the players, having people in the stands wearing that Cardinal red will play a part on Saturday.
They've showed up every game, every practice this year probably, so I mean, not too different. They're always behind us, supporting us, so yeah, I mean, it's not too different.
Arkansas and LSU will clash at 6 p.m. on Saturday, so there's plenty of time for us to get you ready for that leading up to first pitch. We'll have plenty more coming up in sports. For now, in Omaha, Robin Hearn, 5 News Sports.
All right, Robin, thanks. You can catch all of today's press conference with the team and follow our College World Series coverage, by the way, with 5 News Plus for your smart TV. New at 6, a new federal budget proposal could cut funding for hundreds of national parks across the country, including right here in Arkansas. Tonight, 5 News reporter Morgan Wrigley shows us what's on the line and why local leaders and residents are pushing back.
The Fort Smith National Historic Site is one of the city's best-known landmarks, but a federal budget proposal could put sites like this in jeopardy. We're looking into what's at stake and why some community members are sounding the alarm. The proposed 2026 federal budget calls for defunding more than 300 National Park Service managed sites, shifting responsibility to the states if they can afford to keep them running. That could impact several sites across northwest Arkansas and the River Valley, including the Buffalo National River, Pea Ridge Military Park, and more. In Fort Smith, local attorney Joey McCutcheon says he's deeply concerned about what could happen to the Fort Smith National Historic Site.
I mean, I don't think that our state government has the finances to foot the bill for the National Historic Site, and it's something worth fighting for.
The site preserves 2 frontier forts and the federal courtroom once led by Judge Isaac Parker. McCutcheon says its value is too great to lose.
There's things that should be cut in the federal budget, but this isn't one of them.
He raised his concerns at a recent citizens forum and says Fort Smith leaders are already engaged. Fort Smith Mayor George McGill sent a letter to Senator John Bozeman and others urging them to oppose the cuts. In it, he says the site is vital not just as a landmark, but to the city's economy, culture, and connection with tribal nations. Just down the street, Caroline Spear, director of the Fort Smith Museum of History, says the site is deeply tied to the city's identity.
It's very intertwined in the literal history of the city.
She says the loss would be felt far beyond the park gates.
The economic impact is staggering if the historic site wasn't here. But it is also that very personal relationship between us that we work as stewards of this history and as stewards of our buildings and our sites. We work to give that back to the public.
She says the proposal puts a lot at risk, both economically and historically.
Can states sustain that? That's a question. I don't know. It might not be possible. And if it's not possible, then we're losing more than a place. We're losing a piece of history, we're losing economic impact, we're losing tourism dollars.
For now, the proposal is just that, a proposal. But McCutcheon hopes early advocacy could make all the difference.
Speak to local, state, and federal representatives and encourage them to reach out to the people who are in those decision-making circles.
And Spear hopes lawmakers recognize what's at stake.
There are billions of dollars that come in. People want these places here. They want these places to stay.
In Fort Smith, covering news where you live, Morgan Wrigley, 5 News.
We did reach out to 3rd District Congressman Steve Womack. In a statement, the congressman said he greatly appreciates the president's input and that the budget is ultimately just a request. He says he values the Fort Smith National Historic Site, says he's committed to making sure final spending bills reflect the priorities of his district. Families from 4 different school districts have filed a federal lawsuit challenging a new Arkansas law. That law requires districts to display the 10 Commandments in all Arkansas public schools and public buildings starting August 5th. 5 News photojournalist Laura Castleman is in the newsroom now with more on this case.
Yes, Darren, on Wednesday, 7 Arkansas families filed a lawsuit against the public school systems for Fayetteville, Bentonville, Springdale, and Siloam Springs. The complaint states that by putting up the 10 Commandments in school classrooms and libraries, it violates the Constitution's Establishment of Free Exercise Clause and their parental rights.
We have seen a little bit more of religion in public spaces, and there is room for that in some places, but certainly not in a public school classroom where this is coercive towards students.
John Williams is the legal director for American Civil Liberties Union of Arkansas. This is just one among other groups who are representing families who say Act 573 violates their civil rights.
Act 573 from this year requires the 10 Commandments to be posted in every public school classroom and library. So that is what we are challenging. They're worried about the effect of this religious document being confronted by their children every day they're in the classroom. And they're concerned about that impinging upon the way they instruct their children in religious matters.
I reached out to Governor Sanders, who said, and I quote, "In Arkansas, we do in fact believe that murder is wrong and stealing is bad. It is entirely appropriate to display the 10 Commandments, the basis of all Western law and morality, as a reminder to students, state employees, and every Arkansan who enters a government building," end quote. Williams says the law mandates that the version of the 10 Commandments to be posted comes from a specific version of the Christian Bible.
At least those who are religious believe that religious instruction should occur not in a public school. It should occur in a religious setting. What we are hoping to happen here is to essentially stop the posting of the 10 Commandments in public school classroom.
Williams says the goal is not to set a precedent for public schools in Arkansas, but just to stop Act 573 from taking effect before 2025-26 school year begins.
Now, as of this morning, ACLU of Arkansas has officially filed for a motion for an initial injunction. If it is granted by the federal judge in the case, it will stop the placement of the 10 Commandments until the lawsuit has been resolved in the court. I did reach out to each school district. Siloam Springs schools denied to comment. Springdale, Fayetteville, and Bentonville all said, as a matter of practice, they do not comment on pending litigation. But after reviewing the case, officials from all 3 schools say that it appears that the lawsuit aims to challenge the constitutionality of the new Arkansas law that will take effect in August, rather than any action taken by any named school districts. In Northwest Arkansas, covering news where you live, Laura Castleman, 5 News.